Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fiction 101. Today we have Amanda, our teen specialist, and Shelby, our readers advisory specialist. And I'm Sarah Palfrey, the director of the library. And today we're talking about horror. It's October. It works. We're staying on theme, right? And so our first big question, amongst ourselves anyway, is what is horror? Because if you ask me if I read horror, I'm gonna be like, nope, big no, because I'm a scaredy cat. But then the more I was looking for lists and ideas and things that we could talk about, I was like, oh, I read that. Oh, I read that. And they were scary and I didn't want to read more. But so Shelby, what does horror mean to you as a genre?
Just spooky. Like I looked it up just now and it said just literature intended to frighten, scare, disgust. And I don't know, anything that I find scary, I'm like, that's a horror book. But
Yeah, that's a pretty big definition, but I guess that's what genres do, right? And then they get, because I always think of it as being like gory is horror. Like it shouldn't be, it's not like suspenseful or a mystery or like have those underlying things, but I guess it is all of those things too, which is why now we see so many things being advertised and marketed as, kids horror and middle grade, which I'm like, I don't know what to do with that, but it's spooky. But is there anything different about it in the YA world, Amanda?
There's a lot of I would say they're more dark retellings of like fairy tales, even though like the original fairy tales are like kind of horrific. But then there's the Disney version, and then there's the retelling of the Disney versions that make it darker again. And I read a few of those. So House of Salt and Sorrows, the retelling of the 12 princesses, the 12 dancing princesses.
Oh, well, I kind of always thought that was a horror story, actually. So I can see that.
I love it. I think that's probably one of the more creepy books I've read. And the author came out with a new book called Small Favors, and it's probably even more a long horror. I haven't read it yet, but it's like very atmospheric mountain horror. I can't remember which retelling it is. The one with the needle, I think. Rumpelstiltskin, maybe. I don't know. It deals with bees, and that's horrifying for me. So
okay.
A lot of teen horror that we get in is mostly like texting related, social media, or someone's in your house, or teens turning on each other, and like things like that type of things. Pretty Little Liars-esque. So
yeah.
But darker. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been a big move away from like the straight up like, vampire werewolf type of thing. And even when they are still there, it's more about the humanity or the lack of humanity in people, not the supernatural that are causing the terror than the actual, like, because Interview with a Vampire was one of them that was on one of the lists that I was like, oh, I've actually read that, and I wouldn't have put that down as a horror book, but I guess because I had a pretty limited view of it, that it should be bloody and gory, which I guess those books are too, but there's a lot more to them than just that. So, anything else new in the YA world for horror?
There's always new things of like someone watching you. It seems like it's just the same story over and over again, honestly. One of the horror authors that I want to read her books, but they sound too scary for me. Even though she's YA, Danielle Vega, she writes The Merciless and like other things like that. And it's a little bit more witchy, but like it just sounds scary.
Yeah.
And I want to read her books. They're supposedly really good, but I'm too much of a chicken to read them.
That's where I am. I saw one of the Horror Writers Association put out a thing this summer called Summer Scares, and then one of the YA picks was The Diviners by Libba Bray, which she's one of my favorite authors, but I also thought those books were way scarier than anything else that she'd written and super spooky. And I didn't finish the series because chicken, but again, I would have thought of that it was more occult and more
Yeah.
supernatural, but definitely when I look back on it, super spooky. What else is happening in the horror world, Shelby?
Well, starting in September, I was like, I'm getting in the mood for October. I'm gonna read scary stories. The Sanatorium was really popular among patrons, so I checked it out and read it. And it's like a scary whodunit kind of thing. So it definitely had scary moments, but it had a lot of mystery aspects as well that I really enjoyed. I also read The Haunting of Hill House to kind of go back to like classic lore. Yeah. And that was so good. My next read is going to be The Troop by Nick Cutter, which I think I'm not going to enjoy. I think it's definitely more like that, like gory kind of look at horror. So I think it's going to be something that's a little bit too much for me. But it was recommended by a staff member. So
I'm proud of you for trying. Yeah, there's a lot of classic horror like that. I mean, lots of things that get made into, going back to Frankenstein, like that has fed the genre in general and led to all of these other offshoots and made them all possible. And I think that it's growing in interest. I mean, there's a new book in the library professional world that just got published. That's a reader's advisory guide just for horror. So there's a need out there to help connect readers with their next favorite book, which is what we like to try and do. And I do think it's interesting that there's this push towards kids' books and not just calling them spooky stories or scary stories, but actually referring to them as kids' horror, which is cool. And there's when you include gross in there, then yeah, it covers a lot of kids' literature. Goosebumps, and there's a new one that just came out called Scary Stories for Foxes. That looks really good, and kind of along the lines of the classic scary stories to tell in the dark, but a little bit of a twist on those. Anything else that we're looking at coming out in the near future?
There's this new book by Grady Hendrix that sounds super cool. It's called The Final Girls Support Group, and stuff like the final girls that survive, like masculine, so like 80s-esque. And that's really popular already. There's like a long wait for it, and it's getting really good reviews. And Grady Hendrix, he wrote some other horror stories. My Best Friend's Exorcism, that one's rated really well. I read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I didn't like it. It wasn't really scary to me, but there was like creepy, gory parts. I was like, ew.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like it paced really slow for me. But I'm definitely interested in his newest book, The Final Girl Support Group, because it just sounds hopefully girl power-esque. I don't know, it just seems good. I just finished Joyland by Stephen King. And it's a shorter book, prefer shorter horror books because it gets to the point quicker. And it's about the protagonist. He's working at an amusement park over the summer. He just turned 21, going through a breakup. It was not great. I wanted something that's like a little intro to Stephen King, but not like full on like terrifying.
Yeah.
It read more like a coming of age story. Like there is a ghost, but it's not really about the ghost. It's like he never even sees the ghost, the protagonist. But there's murder, and that's fun. If you're into coming of age stories with a slightly, I wouldn't even say scary, just like suspenseful edge, that book would be good.
Kind of like The Ocean at the End of the Lane. Have you read that?
Yeah, I have.
Like that is a super, super creepy book.
Yeah.
But not in a traditional creepy kind of a way, like,
Yeah.
but very disturbing. Yeah. So again, lots of different horror comes in lots of shapes and sizes, and it's not always covered in blood and gore, as we've found. Shelby, have any other things that people are looking forward to?
Well, there's a book that just came out last week called Stalking Shadows, and it's like a scary Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I think has a lot of potential. It's by Zyla Pennon, and I want to read it really bad.
That sounds good. Yeah, there's quite a few Beauty and the Beast versions. There's a lot of different and they're all really different too, you know, like we've seen fairy tale retellings have been really popular over the last couple of years in general, but I think Beauty and the Beast is probably one of the top ones that gets remade over and over again because there's so many different stories you can tell from both characters, the different directions they can go in. Well, that sounds good. Anybody have any other last suggestions? Okay, well, as always, feel free to reach out to us through Messenger or the comments. If you're looking to get connected with your next favorite book, talk to us. Somebody's always at the desk and we're happy to help connect you, or reach out to Shelby through the staff picks form you can find on our website. And it's a quick form you fill out with a couple of questions about what you like and what you don't like. And she'll pick some things for you to get you started. And we will be back in November with our next genre, which we don't know what it is yet. So if there's something you really want us to address too, we'd love to hear that. And we'll find the staff member that has the interest or the knowledge and share our favorite books coming up. So see you in November, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.